Listen to him. Listen to him. Give him a couple of notes, Adrian.
Tonight is the celebration of the first Wake Up to Poetry contest and celebration we've had at Wake Forest. April is National Poetry Month, so this is a perfect time to do it. We have 4 student poets who won a campus-wide competition who are going to read their poems that won, and then the judges, who are 3 published, well-known outside poets, not from the Wake Forest community. They judged these poems, and they're each going to read one of their poems too, the 3 of them. Then after that, we're going to have an open music session led by the Belfast Boys, because one of the poets is actually a very well-known Irish musician as well. So he and his partner are going to play and sing, and we hope that others will join in.
After Isabel. Late at night, lightning storms far out to sea pull slowly away from our view on the shore. The breeze flows around us and through the palm trees. We scatter inside and shut the front door, pull slowly away from our view on the shore. The streetlights are dead, and so is the town. We scatter inside and shut the front door.
So poetry it's like a little time machine. You don't just go back to experience that moment, but you go back to experience all the moments that are connected to that moment.
The poem usually takes over. I usually start from a phrase or a word I really like that gets stuck in my head, and I don't often know what it means exactly when I start with it, and the poetry is more of a way to kind of discover what it is.
I want the same imaginary place, first sighted on that trailer during that night of creep-drenched feet and paint-chipped nicknames, where you had your pick of Neverlands from the stars you never saw anywhere else, and the fireflies that mimic them in the foggy fields. I want to tangle and ensnare in drips and splashes of gray, white, black, to live as drizzles that rainbow into something beyond grayscale, only faintly at the bottom, beneath all the layers and ridges, into smudges of rust, yellow, green, that make most people wonder at my drinking habits, and the rest sit on cold benches for hours, just looking.
With all of the poems I've been writing recently, I've just had this idea of conversation, and how can I make a conversation happen in a poem, like a real conversation between 2 people.
Where are you going? For an infinite yes, there are locations. Clarify locations. 1. Or the equivalent of intercourse. How are you getting there? Startled, joyless. Clarify the sadness. It is the ridicule of light over the muscle where we are drawing our bodies out of their cases, fluttering.
I really feel like that's where my voice is in poetry. I've tried writing short stories and poems. I feel get my point across.
When your eyes are wide open and you don't see a home in the house you left, the place you caught cicada shells, pretended living inside wisteria vines, roofed by the tulip magnolia, eating the pansies and parsley, flavored by wild onions and dirt-defined palms. So Rome played when my father told me I didn't live with him. I looked at the Crown Royal bag he gave me and decided that was my home. I took out my Velcro sandals, cassette player, and pencil so I could fit inside. The eraser was erased because time wore away its face, and the bricks in that tape couldn't stick to my compact skin. When I was taken up by the reel, I couldn't rewind.
You know, people do ask, does poetry matter? It seems to be a very niche kind of thing and a small population that's interested in it, but you know, that's really not true. When things matter, when things really matter, and I'm going to say a wedding, a funeral, what do people turn to? They turn to poetry, and that's because it is the most condensed, meaningful use of language.
I think my advice to people who haven't read a lot of poetry is just to be open and be willing to maybe not understand what's going on in a poem, and that's okay. But sometimes just having language in front of you that is new to you is a good thing.
I want everyone to try to write a poem. That's honestly all I want. I think anyone can write a poem. It's a different way of speaking, it's a different way of using words, and I think the language is so powerful. You can really write anything with a poem as compared to prose.